If you desire to speak with clarity, with influence, to be persuasive, then you found the right video. I'm going to tell you everything I've learned on how to speak with clarity and with influence in this video. People pay me thousands of pounds for this information. I've worked in this space for 4 years, and I'm just going to give it to you for free. Anyone can get better at speaking and communicating. The misconception is that it's a talent, but it's actually a skill. And just like any skill, anyone can get better. My name is Frederick Afrifa. I'm an international speaker. I'm here with my co-host and the best videographer in the game, Mr.
Creative director now.
Creative director in the game, Mr. Camille. How you doing, bro?
I'm good, thanks, man. And yourself?
I'm doing well. I'm excited for this conversation.
Yeah, me too. I've been working with Fred for 4 years for context, and I've seen his journey from beginning to where he is today. And I've got a lot of questions that I've been asking him behind the scenes, but I think you guys could, take an insight into this conversation and take a few things for yourselves.
Absolutely. Camille's going to be the listener. Any question that he has, please put it forwards. And let's get straight into it. I don't know if this is controversial or not.
So we're starting off with this one, yeah.
But I think in the age we live in, your ability to speak is one of, if not the most important skill that anyone doing anything can learn. Is that controversial?
It is, but I do agree. I do agree to some extent. I think in this day and age, I've seen it out and about. Everyone's on their phones, scrolling, looking at irrelevant things that doesn't really serve them. And I think we've detached from just that humanity, that connection, that one-to-one conversation. I think a lot of people have lost the art of speaking and communicating effectively.
Totally agree. Something people don't understand is that anyone can get better at this. Anyone can get better. Now, I'm not saying that you.
How long is it going to take? That's a question I might have.
Not as long as you think. Studies show that 20 hours of focused effort can make you pretty good at anything. Now, you are not going to be Barack Obama. You're not going to be Tony Robbins. You're not going to be Frederick Afrifa. But you can be 100 times better than you are now in 20 hours. 20 focused hours of anything, of piano, singing, driving, speaking, can make you better. So it doesn't actually take as long as people think. And that's the first thing, that it usually takes people decades to start the first hour. But actually, once they start, they improve a lot quicker.
Why do you think that is? Do you think a lot of people have fear that they might not have relevant expertise to speak about a certain topic? Why do you think that there's such a barrier to entry when it comes to someone working on their communicational skills and maybe becoming a speaker?
Well, the first thing is, this is relevant for anyone, even if you're not a speaker. Because I get booked into corporations to train individuals that are not speakers. They're just people that have to speak for their job. But it could be one-to-one speaking. If you're a private banker, you're having some high commercial conversations. The better you are at speaking, the better you're going to be at your job. If you're a leader of a team, the better you are at speaking, the better you're going to be at your job. I think people don't work on it because they think that it's something that you either have or you don't have. So they just think, oh, that person's got the gift of the gab, they're good at speaking, and I'm not so good, so I'm not going to do anything about it. So I think the first piece for people like myself in the space is the education piece, and helping people understand that, listen, anyone you actually can get better,
But do you think some people might have that frustration, like they're in their minds thinking you're either good at it or you're bad, like intrinsically, without like thinking, okay, this is something I can develop?
100%. And that's just society. Society doesn't help you understand that you can get better at pretty much anything. If you think about the school system, you're in sets, and then it's like, okay, if you're bad at maths, you're bad at maths. But actually, if you're bad at maths, you could actually get better at maths if you wanted to, if you put the time and effort into it, etc. And it's the exact same thing with speaking and communication. So I'm going to share 5 things.
It's useful even for myself.
Yes.
I believe, now correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that everyone at some point, their career path should naturally progress into becoming a speaker. Because think about it, a business owner, they would want to attract leads. Speaking is a perfect way to do that. There's people within the AI space, within the tech space, within the healthcare space that they can all become speakers. They can all. I don't think a lot of people put speaking into this thing that they should work towards. I think
I disagree.
so.
I don't think everyone should become a speaker, because if you're talking in the entrepreneurial space, then I agree with you. But a large amount of people listening to this might not be entrepreneurs, might not want to be entrepreneurs. They might be 9-to-5ers, and then they might think, oh, because I'm a 9-to-5er, I don't need to work on my ability to communicate. You do. Because everyone does. So even if you're not trying to be a speaker, you better learn how to speak, because whatever you're trying to do, even if we're going to keep it real, even beyond your professional work, being able to communicate well helps your personal life.
It's true. It's true.
Think about difficult conversations you have with your spouse, that you're going to have with your children, that you have with your parents, that you have with friends. How many times in arguments do people miscommunicate? And that exacerbates the argument. If you're having a debate with two people that are great communicators, and communication isn't just speaking, it's also listening, then so many things will just be squashed.
I agree. Even this can happen as far back as you were kids. I remember being bothered about something and I wouldn't tell my dad, and I would build that resentment because I struggled to communicate how I felt. And you know, this just causes so much disarray in relationships and families, because one person could be struggling to communicate something that is such a blockade within that relationship, but all it takes is just talking about it, and that could be dismantled.
Yeah. So the first thing I want to talk about is the psychology of attention. And this is relevant for people that want to go from good to great. Anyone in a leadership position that communicates with people and wants to influence their behaviors, you need to understand about the psychology of attention.
What do you mean by that?
So attention spans have obviously drastically reduced. Have you heard about the study in California? Did I tell you about it?
No.
So in California, they did a study in the early 2002, and they put 20 professionals in one room for a period of time to see how long on average until they got distracted. And the average then was 18 and a half minutes. So on average, after 18 and a half minutes, they got distracted. They did the same study in 2022, 20 years later, and on average, after 3 minutes and 15 seconds, these professionals would get distracted from their tasks, which is mad. One interesting thing that they found that is deeply affecting attention spans is the fact we as humans distract ourselves on a regular basis. So you could be watching your favorite show, your favorite film, your favorite sports team, and even then you may feel the need to whip your phone out and start scrolling.
I've done this. I'm guilty.
I'm guilty of it. You're distracting yourself from your favorite thing. So imagine something that you're not so interested in. You're going to disengage.
Why is
like
it that happens? Do you have an explanation? Is, you know, this research you're talking about, does it dissect as to why that actually happens? Because I've been guilty of this myself. Putting aside things that I enjoy and, you know, getting distracted doing things I'm enjoying. When it comes to more serious things, when I'm talking to my partner, for example, or rather when I'm listening, when she's talking, I go on my phone.
Yeah, that's not good.
In a deep conversation, like, why does that happen?
Because with our phones especially, we are pretty much addicted to our phones. And it's simply just the dopamine hits that we get on a regular basis from being on social media. You're not going to get much dopamine from sitting down watching Love at First Sight for 45 minutes, right? And then your brain is like, I want dopamine. Yeah. And then you go on Instagram and you get some dopamine hits and then you go away. So that's a whole different conversation. But once you understand the psychology of attention, then you can speak in a way that retains the attention of the people that you're speaking to. The reason why that's crucial, because I could be telling you the most important information, that life-changing information, but if you're not listening, I might as well not be saying it. And we've all been there. I've been there. Could be a place of worship. It could be a conference. Could be work. And someone's speaking and you're there to listen. You want to listen, but for whatever reason, you just cannot concentrate.
I guess, you know, the effective communication can come from the other person. If they see that sort of behavior where you're going on their phone as they're talking, effective communication can literally make such a big difference there. I think the right terminology when you're addressing someone going on their phone is not why you're on your phone. There's a certain way to approach it. How would you approach it? If you're talking to someone and they're going on the phone, what's a nice way to say, look, I'm here trying to have a conversation, why are you going on your phone, without feeling hostile? Because that is effective communication in itself. That's a skill that a lot of people struggle with. They struggle to convey how they feel without coming off too aggressive. That makes sense.
If I was speaking to someone and they were on their phone, and I wanted to not sound confrontational but ask them to get on the phone, I would simply say, I would appreciate it if just for the next 10 minutes you get off your phone, because what I'm going to tell you is really important. Is it fair enough to have your undivided attention for 10 minutes?
That's a good approach. See, that's not hostile at all. I think a lot of people just get at the other person because they feel like they're not being listened to. They feel maybe threatened, like, hold on a minute, what's so important within your phone that's not important about the conversation we're trying to have?
True. However, to pivot it, what I want to focus it on is the individuals that are leaders that have to articulate themselves to stakeholders. And typically these stakeholders won't be on their phone. But it's still a relevant example because even though it won't be the phone distracting them, it will be their mind. And
true.
there are times that you're sat there, right, physically, but mentally, you're in Ibiza, you're in Jamaica, you're not actually listening to these individuals. So once you understand that every few minutes, the people that you're speaking to, their attention span might go, then the question becomes, how do we avoid that from happening? Or how do we get back the attention of people whose attention you may be losing? Now, you see when you're going for dinner with your friend, or when we're at Nando's, we can speak for 3 hours and time just goes fast and we're engaged. Versus when you're in a team meeting, 30 minutes can feel like forever and you're disengaged. The difference is, in what I just said, how engaged you are. So what you need to try and do whenever you communicate is engage your audience. Now, there are many ways you can do that. A simple way you can do that is ask them questions. What do you think?
Like that.
Right? Because if you ask them questions and if you start early and if you...
It's true, even I've noticed as we're speaking, my attention's drifting, I'm getting distracted by external things, and it's like, you need to hook my attention here and there. But that's the effect, that you said happens in our mind because of all this distractions, all this technology and everything else, all this noise, I would call it, really.
Absolutely.
There's so much noise, really. The phones and our minds as well, like you just said.
100%.
You could be thinking, this person's not listening. But in reality, they're engaged, they're listening, but your mind's making these things up. So how would you sort of, tell your mind to be quiet in that time and say, no, they are interested. Like, can you control the mind at all in these situations where you're having these difficult conversations with shareholders and whatnot?
I'm glad you asked. Very good question. One of the biggest challenges people go through when speaking under pressure is their mind. Their mind stops them from speaking, or when they do speak, forces them to speak really, really fast. And then they leave the presentation thinking, damn, I missed the main point. I didn't say this properly. Now, that will happen forever. There will be an ongoing battle between you and your brain forever, because your brain is just trying to protect you from danger and it's trying to keep you alive. So at any situation that it perceives to be dangerous, it will stop you from doing it. Walking to a boardroom with a bunch of clients, your brain might go to the worst case scenario because it's trying to protect you from that. So what I've done and what I teach people to do is to see that voice as a separate entity. Because truthfully, that voice in your brain that gives you negative talk isn't actually how you feel. Like, there are times that you want to be productive, but a voice tells you to procrastinate. You listen to that voice. That's not actually how Camille feels. That's just your brain trying to protect you from danger. So it's helpful to see it as a separate entity, to give it a name.
Yeah.
I call it Brian.
Brian the brain, it works.
Brian the brain. Let's look at A and E, I and I stop them. So in those moments that my brain tells me funny things, I told Brian to shut up. Now, I'm a human being. So sometimes Brian still wins, and sometimes I still don't introduce myself to that person at the networking event. But 9 times out of 10, I allow myself to do the thing, even though my brain tells me.
There's a really good book. It's called The Power of Now. I don't know if you've heard of it or if you've read it, but it basically says, you are not your thoughts. You are not your brain, kind of like what you're saying. It's a separate entity. It's responsible for your thoughts, but it is not inherently you. It's a separate thing, but you have a right to control it, essentially, and say, look, this is not truth, but this is, right? You don't have to submit to your mind telling you certain things.
100%. So I'd say that's the one thing to do. And the second thing to do is whatever you focus on expands. So if you approach an interview, a presentation, a speech, and you're thinking about how bad it can go, that's what will expand, and that's everything you're going to think about.
Do you think this has anything to do with energy? Are you charging negative energy and you're charging worry into that, and it's like sort of creating itself? It's like the chaos is unraveling because of the energy that you're charging into that, or is it not that deep?
Maybe that could be the case, but it's also the matter of your brain can't focus on you executing as well as how your audience will perceive you. Meaning, if I'm speaking to a group of people, but my focus is on slowing down, asking questions, engaging the audience, I can't also think about how worried I am because my brain has to pick. So what typically happens is if you don't give your brain something to think about, it will pick for you. And the challenge is
that's really interesting.
It's really so the challenge, people don't pick what should I focus on. They just let their brain do their thing, thinking, oh my goodness, why is this happening? Whereas actually you have a lot more autonomy than you think. In those situations that you're under pressure, you're like, okay, what am I going to focus on? If you don't do that, your brain will decide. And that's why you can have good days, bad days, and then you fluctuate.
Yeah.
So that's something that's really, really important. And that's the psychology of attention.
Okay. I got a question, please. You were talking about presenting and doing presentations.
Yeah.
On the back of that, what are Frederick Afrifa's hacks for a good presentation? Let's say you're in a room full of shareholders and you might be pitching an idea. Is there any specific advice you might have for the viewers, such as be sure to ask questions? The reason why I'm asking is because I read a book called The Power Questions. It's a really good book on sales, and in the beginning it talks about someone delivering a sales presentation, and in the first example he goes and says, this is our company, this is what we do, blah 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 blah. He just talks at them, just vomiting information. At the end of it, they got the binders, they're like, right, this has been an insightful meeting, thank you very much. Doesn't hear from them. 10 years down the line, he has a similar experience, but this time, instead of just rambling about his company, what they've done, their achievements, he asks them, what do you want from this meeting? And that makes me think, are there any hacks to delivering a good presentation? Is it just as simple as asking questions?
It depends what the objective of the presentation is. So there isn't a one size fits all. If you're presenting because you want to change someone's behavior, you want to influence people to do something, whether it's to buy, whether it's to work harder, if you want to influence people, then you need to use what I call the influence equation.
Break that down.
The influence equation
Because I don't even know.
yes, is change what people think, how people think, plus change how people feel equals change their behavior. So I believe you cannot change someone's behavior if you don't change how they think.
I agree.
Or change how they feel. So let's start with an example of children. If there is a kid and you're telling a kid, don't touch the fire, you've got a kid. What's the first question they're gonna ask?
Why?
Because they want to know. They're asking you, change how I think.
Yeah.
Why should I not do it?
Yeah.
Right? If you can't change how they think and they still touch the fire and it burns them, then that would have changed how they
feel. Yeah.
And as a result, it will change their
behaviors.
There you go.
Correct. Yeah.
Or if you got a driving lesson on driving, one of my friends actually, so sorry, she got into a big car crash.
Yeah.
And she told me, I'm not going to say her name.
If I've got to do a straight face, I was just...
He's laughing.
No, I'm not laughing about this. I'm just a smiley person.
I know. So she had a quite serious car crash on the motorway. She wasn't culpable, but she said that the distance between her and the car in front of her could have been a little bit longer. The car in front of her hit the brakes. She hit them, she raced off her car, and actually she's now going through PTSD, etc. That story that she told me changed how I think. Because now on the motorway, I'm leaving a whole load of gap, right?
Yeah.
It changed how I feel because I actually felt really sorry for her, and I felt, damn, this is...
You don't want that happening to you.
As a result, I now drive like a grandpa on the motorway, right? But if she had just told me, you shouldn't drive fast on a motorway, that would not have influenced me.
I get it now. That makes so much more sense.
So that's the influence equation: is you change how people think, plus you change how people feel, equals you change their behavior. So if you are a manager, if you're someone that wants to influence people wherever it may be, let's talk about sales. Let's talk about sales calls, right? You want someone to purchase your service. So we want to change how they think. So at the moment, the prospect probably thinks they don't need your service. Probably thinks they can do it by themselves. Probably thinks that it's expensive. You need to change all of those thoughts. It's not expensive, it's an investment. Because this is the cost of not doing it with me. If you keep going by yourself, what's the results that you've gotten so far? Well, that's exactly the results they're going to get. So you have to
make them feel
exactly change how they feel. Imagine if you had an inbound of clients every single month. How would that make you feel?
Great.
Right?
Great. I'm trying to get the clients.
So what would you do with that? Could you handle 10 more inquiries?
Probably not. No.
What would you do then?
Find someone to help me.
Is that where you want to go in your business?
Yeah.
Okay, tell me, where do you want to be in 6 months' time? All of these questions help them feel something.
Yeah.
They help them feel excited, hopeful. Then you can change their behavior. And I think the influence equation applies to anyone, anywhere.
See, that's a banger. Take note, because this is applicable for business owners trying to do sales. This is useful in the office.
Yes.
It's just so widely applicable.
If you want to, children, or whatever it is, whoever it is that you want to influence. Date night.
No, I was going to say, China for God.
Right? You want Chinese,
That's
you want
everything
pizza.
sales, yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's something that's really important. Second thing I want to focus on is executive voice.
Again, I will ask, what do you mean by that? What is an executive voice?
An executive voice is a voice that keeps the listener interested.
So, as in, you speak as an authority about a certain topic, or?
No. Typically, when people convey information, the reason that people aren't listening is because it's boring. It's because they're speaking monotone. They're doing the same thing for 15 minutes. And I've heard it so many times at conferences, within organizations. And this is typically how it goes. Hello, guys. So today we're going to be speaking about X. X is really important, so it's really crucial that we start doing
Why do you think they speak like that? Do you think it's because they've done it so many times, it's mundane to them? Or do you think sometimes it's based on maybe they're just worried because they've been in the position so long where they haven't made a sale, they haven't had attention, so they just sort of give up?
Because you don't know what you don't know. Typically, people aren't educated on this. I don't even blame them. But it's so important that you understand that once your speaking cadence becomes predictable, it becomes disengaging. So you have to include pauses, as I just done. You have to include emphasis. Do you know how crazy important emphasis is? I could say the same thing, the same sentence, and put emphasis on different words, and it will sound like different sentences.
Give an example.
You got the job. What?
What?
Versus, you got the job. Whoa. Ultimately, I'm saying the same thing, but my emphasis is on different words. Or even if I was to say, Camille didn't say he called her, the emphasis is on Camille.
Yeah.
Camille didn't say he called her, the emphasis is on
Say.
maybe he didn't say it, maybe he emailed it. Camille didn't say he called her, maybe he emailed her.
Why does that work, though?
Because
does it get us thinking about, if someone emphasizes a certain word, is there a subconscious reaction in our minds that's like, why are we so engaged, basically, when someone's tonality changes?
For the same reason that some content grabs our attention and some content doesn't.
Emotion. For example, from what I know, being a creative director, is the inner hook, we have to evoke a certain emotion. We want to make the viewers angry. Controversial one, but it works. We want to make them jealous, maybe, show off something that they don't have. That will grab their attention. It may not be positive reinforcement, but it still works. So it's in a similar, sort of fashion, right? You get this when the tonality changes, you get this emotional pull towards what you're speaking about. I think.
100%. 100%. And you could say the exact same thing without any of those that tonal variety, and it will just impact the amount that people will be drawn into the things that you're saying. And this also helps you to become a more charismatic speaker. And being a charismatic speaker is a more likable speaker. And studies show that if you're a leader and you're more likable, then the people in your team are more likely to work harder for you. So when I'm speaking about executive voice, it's about a voice that allows you to convey the message in the way that you want to. Another challenge that people have is that they finish the sentence with a high pitch all the time.
I've seen this happen so many times.
And what it sounds like is basically this. And after every sentence, they end on a high pitch, and it feels like they're asking a question, even though they're actually not. And it makes it sound unsure. So what I often say to people, if you want to have an executive voice, you need to try and end your sentences on a low pitch. And I know what you're thinking, but you have an accent, but this is the way you've been speaking. I've worked with thousands of people that have different accents and gave me all of those excuses, but it's just intentionality. Try and end your sentences on a low pitch rather than a low pitch. And these things make a dramatic difference to the way people speak. I mean, people focus on the way they look and their visual appearance, but they don't think about their vocal image. And what image are you putting in people's heads when you start speaking? Is it, oh my goodness, this person's boring? Oh my goodness, I'm so disengaged? Oh my goodness, this person. Or is it, wow, this is someone that I want to follow. This is someone who I want me to lead, who I want to lead me into the next stage of this organization. So that's something to think about. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about is storytelling.
Storytelling is so important. I think this is my caveat on this is AI has just made it's so important to have a good story because anyone can just go on ChatGPT, write an email, write a DM to someone, but stories will always be captivating. I think there's always going to be a need for a story. Stories hold so much power, and I think you said this before when you've been delivering your keynotes. Is everyone has a story, whether you realize it or not. Everyone's been through something that they have expertise on. So, how can someone find out what part of their journey is worthy enough to be a story, if that makes sense? Because everyone has experiences. You know, we've all been through something, right? So where can we extrapolate that story from?
Good question. And that is a question for another day. And the reason I say that is because if you're in a boardroom speaking to a client, the client doesn't care about your story. So
what do you mean by storytelling then?
Storytelling brings facts to life.
Elaborate.
ChatGPT can make you millions. Fact. A friend of mine was a solo entrepreneur. He found that he was stuck doing loads of admin tasks as a fellow entrepreneur. You know what it's like. Long. The thing that got him the most was email. His spelling isn't great, so he would have to proofread his emails 5 times over, and it just made it long. He now just speaks his email replies onto ChatGPT, and ChatGPT creates an email in his tone of voice. And he's able to do the emails in half an hour rather than 4 hours. This has given him the time and energy to work on things that has now given him £1 million.
Okay. So you're not just saying anything about your story specifically, but you're using storytelling to make an emphasis on a certain fact.
Precisely. And that is the power of storytelling. Now, this is subject to how long you have in your presentation, in your pitch, in your delivery. But I think I honestly believe anytime you're delivering any piece of information, you want to attach that piece of information with a story, with an example. even if it's an anecdotal story, so it's not a real story. And we're saying going to Dubai is like having a bath.
No, I don't know where.
I don't know. But that's a terrible example. No edit. So you're gonna see this. But rather than just saying, okay,
Go to Dubai. It's nice and hot, and
is nice and hot. Yeah, that's a good one. So people say, okay, as an entrepreneur, you should go to Dubai.
yeah,
Facts. Or you could say, going to Dubai,
help me network, connect with like-minded millionaires, blah blah.
not necessarily, because I haven't been there.
Okay.
But an anecdotal story would be saying, going to Dubai is like a foodie going to a food hall.
Okay.
You have so many options, so many different opportunities. And if you're an entrepreneur, you'll be salivating at the amount of money that you can make.
Why do you think it's worth investing the time to learn this skill, storytelling? How is this beneficial for when you're having a meeting with like a shareholder? Again, we'll use that as an example because we've already been using that. But how is using an anecdotal story going to help them?
So we've established that if you want to influence people's behaviors, you have to change the way they think and change the way they feel.
And that does both.
There's nothing like storytelling
Mhm.
because it literally does the 2-in-1.
Yeah.
If you're speaking to a client and you're telling the client the story about this other client that you worked with and the results you got on them, you're going to help them change how they think and break their limiting beliefs. You're going to help them get excited. And as a result, you can change their behaviors. Nothing does that like a story. So whether it is an anecdotal story or it's a true story, then what you want to do is use storytelling. Now, if you're not using an anecdotal story, then I think you should use what I call the 4 principles of storytelling. The first one is you relate the story to the people that you're speaking to. So if you're speaking to a client in finance, you should speak to them about your other client in finance. If you are speaking to a group of 16-year-olds, you should tell them about your experiences when you were 16. So you have to put yourself in the listener's shoe. And that's one of the things that the private bankers at one of the banks that we work with are struggling with, because they work with high net worth individuals and they are old school bankers.
Yeah.
Their new clients are YouTubers and influencers. So they're trying to speak to them as they used to speak with the old stories, and that's not the case anymore. So number one, you have to speak in the language of the person that you're delivering the thing to. Relate it. Number 2, you explain the challenge. Really simple. What went wrong? If everything went right, there isn't really a story worth telling. So when I did this when I told you about the ChatGPT story, I related it. I told you the challenge, the solution, and then what that means to you as a speaker. So I'll just do a quick story. Give me a topic.
Topic. Can't be Dubai, can't be ChatGPT, marriage. You can give context if you want as well.
Got married not too long ago. Marriage. A lot of people nowadays are scared of marriage.
Correct.
Mandem, I'm speaking to you.
Go to church, find a wife.
Mandem, I'm speaking to you. I think one of the challenges is that there are too many options nowadays. A friend of mine told me that he's scared to get married because of the thought that he felt stuck. And for the last 5 years, he's been on dating apps where he's felt like he's had a pick of the lot. Swiping. For me, though, as an entrepreneur, self-employed, I have found that being in a stable relationship has stabilized my life because it's a foundation for everything to build upon. So the mindset needs to change. And what I said to my friend is, rather than seeing getting girls and doing your thing as the excitement in your life, you need to find excitement in other means. Whether it is finding a hobby, starting a business, whatever it may be. And as a result, my friend's actually changed his mind. He's in a serious relationship now. He's bought a ring and he's going to propose to his girl.
Is this real? Is this?
No, but facts. So the lesson is, if you're a guy and you feel like you're scared of marriage and you feel like marriage isn't for you, maybe it isn't for you. Do whatever you want. But actually think about how you see women. Are they just a source of excitement for you? Because often that excitement can be replaced with something that's healthier, and a stable relationship can help you get to a healthier place.
This topic can just go. It can go another direction, but yeah, let's stick to the topic at hand.
Storytelling.
Yes, that was a good story, but I was gonna get carried away. See, that's the importance of a good story, because that story can lead to a whole nother level of conversation. I was gonna say this can turn into like a preaching lesson about how to, not let woman and lust take over your life, and really allocate that energy into something more sufficient and long term, like building a business, for example. But it's a story for another day.
It's a story for another day.
I get the point.
Yeah.
Like it invoked emotion within me to sort of want to conversate more, really.
Absolutely. Stories are really important. So the one story that I want every listener to really think about immediately is the story that they tell themselves about themselves, and the story that they tell others about who they are. So if I was to meet you for the first time and I asked you, hey, could you introduce yourself? How would you introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Camille. I'm a creative director for speakers and event organizers. It depends on the context, but if it's a networking event, it would be something along those lines.
Can I help you tweak that?
Yes. Go ahead, because I'm sure many people do the same as me. They just say, hi, I'm X, I do Y. That's most people.
That's most people, and I think that is a terrible way to introduce yourself.
Thank you, man.
Sorry, bro. But I used to do that as well.
Mm-hmm. So
ask me to introduce myself.
Yes, introduce yourself.
Hey, my name is Frederick Afrifa, and I help individuals get really good at speaking under pressure. I moved to this country when I was 12 years old and I spoke no English. I was super introverted, and I literally was so introverted that I just used to run. And then I signed as pro as an athlete, which is awesome. And then due to COVID, unfortunately, I lost my contract.
Okay, let's work on my one in real time.
In real time. So we're going to work on your...
What would you advise that I would say? For example, right, I was a videographer.
Yeah.
I realized that filming for my clients wasn't enough.
Cool.
Anyone can do videography, photography, editing, pick up a camera and edit here and there.
Cool.
Not enough people really want to sit down with someone long term and help them build a strategy. And that's why I felt like this was right for me.
Cool.
Is that a little bit better in terms of
It is a little bit better. So you are Camille, and what do you do?
Creative director.
Let's break that down.
Let's break it down. Okay.
What is a creative director?
I will do an audit of someone's personal brand, see where there's any leaks, what sort of content they're missing. There's a few different content pillars. We've got talking head videos, we've got podcast clips, we've got day in the life, we've got point of view, like sort of reels. From that, we would ideate, script write, and actually produce the content. Sometimes that involves me not actually doing the filming, but rather being sent all of the assets, all of the videos from my client for me to then work on it myself. That is it in a nutshell.
What does building their personal brand do?
It helps them find the correct audience. So it helps them grow their total addressable market by talking to the ICP as well as their dream followers. That the personal brand essentially cultivates an environment for those necessary people to find their page, engage with them, interact with them, and maybe buy from them.
Ultimately, if they have more people engaging with them and buying from them, what's the outcome?
Sales. More revenue for them.
So your name is Camille, and you help speakers increase their revenue.
So we dissect it. Okay.
Can you see it? So that, if you say to someone, my name is Camille.
You put me on the spot.
Think about it. It's good. But if you say to someone, my name is Camille, and I help speakers increase and maximize their revenue by working on their personal brand. I do that as a creative director, and I do this because I found that as a videographer, it still didn't make any difference. I'll just go, film, and left it.
And this is why effective communication is so important.
So important. Because what happens in those moments is that if someone is a speaker or knows a speaker, they'll say, damn, we need to have a conversation about how you can support me. Whereas if you say, hey, I'm a creative director, it's like, okay, cool, I don't.
Yeah, I've actually, for context, I had a call with a public speaker from Dubai recently, and it was going well until he asked, so what exactly do you do? I know you're a creative director. I've looked at your LinkedIn. I still don't know what you do. And all my days, it was me in the call. My sales skills are abysmal, by the way. So if you know a salesperson, send them my way. I need some training. But I had this guy on the call, and it felt like I was trying to justify my offer because I didn't really convey in an articulate manner what I do in a way where he understood it on a level that I do, if that makes sense.
How did you feel in that moment?
Dreadful. It felt like I wasn't catching my breath. I felt warm, flustered. I felt like I was sweating because he was just looking at the screen like his eyes were piercing my soul. And I get why effective communication is so important, because I was thinking, oh, I wonder what he's thinking. Am I talking too much? Am I trying to sell too much? Is he understanding what I'm saying? But if I had the necessary training, and if I could actually storytell in a good manner where I said, this is what I do, this is why I do it, this is how it helps you, it would have been so much simpler.
The best way to be interesting is to be interested. So in those moments, if you have enough information from the client, you should be able to mirror all the things that the client needs. Like you get on a call, hey, tell me about where you're at in your journey and the things that you've been.
Okay, I've got a question on this one.
Go.
I've got to cut you off there. I was the one initially reaching out. He showed interest, but when it came to the call, it felt like, I don't know how to explain it. There's this power dynamic sometimes in a call where I hopped on the call with the intention of asking him questions and learning more about him. Yeah. But he flipped it. Okay. He was asking questions about me. Why do you do this? What is the price? And I didn't really get to do that research that I wanted to do within that discovery call. Mm-hmm. Is this normal? Does this happen? And how do you like overcome that when someone's trying to take control of the conversation?
Let's do a role play.
Flip, man. Just put me on the spot.
Let's do it.
Not what I signed up for.
It's a role play. So you're going to be the speaker. I'm going to be Camille. Okay. So for context, I've entered the presentation.
Okay, let me be strict and stern.
I've entered the conversation trying to pitch my services to this individual that I've reached out to on LinkedIn. My intentions were to ask questions, but his intentions are to take control and ask questions from me instead. Okay. Hello, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Where are you at? Where are you staying at the moment?
So I'm in Milton Keynes at the moment, in Buckinghamshire, in the UK. Thank you so much for answering to my LinkedIn message.
That's exactly what I said. I said thank you for showing up personally, because many people don't.
Many people don't. And
come back to the role play, sorry.
Yeah, thank you for accepting my LinkedIn message, for replying.
Yeah, it's okay. I mean, I just had a look at your LinkedIn and I saw what you're doing. It's quite interesting. Can you tell me a bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I help speakers just like you, but I help them in slightly different ways. I'll make sure that I tailor it to the speaker in particular. So I'll be keen to hear, tell me about your speaker journey so far, where it's at the moment, if there's anything that you're struggling with, and then I guess after that I'll tell you a bit about how I might potentially support you. How does that sound?
Yeah, it sounds good. I still have a few more questions though.
Okay.
About yourself. How long have you been doing it? You know, and what exactly is a creative director?
Yes, so I've been doing it for 4 years now, for a while. And
exactly what I said.
Yeah, and my main success comes from an individual called Frederick Afrifa that I've been working with. That I've been working with. As a creative director, I have many different arms to the business. So if you tell me a little bit about where you're currently at, then I'll tell you about the arms that are specific to you, because I don't want to tell you the whole spiel and then it might not even be relevant. Do you know what I mean?
Let's cut the role play there, because I think that's honestly enough. I noticed the mistake I made.
Got it.
It was I wasn't asking the questions back to him.
There you go.
He would ask me a question, I would relay an answer. Cool. That leaves an answer for him to then ask a question again. same again. I wouldn't give another question back.
Absolutely.
So it was just this constant cycle.
Absolutely. Funnily enough, that's exactly what I wanted to say, but I want to role play it. That if you're in a situation that you feel like the individual that you're speaking to is taking control, ask them questions back. Ask them questions back. Answer it. So
It's sales 101. Honestly, you make it about them
as
rather
much
than
as
yourself.
possible. The more you are interested, the more you're interesting. And that's it. And people won't even necessarily realize that you are doing it, but you want to be as curious as possible. You answer the question and then you throw it right back at them. And if they want more information, you say, look, there is so much. We've only got 50 minutes.
Yeah.
I don't even know what information to tell you. I need to understand where you are at, so then I can tell you the information that is relevant to you. And then they'll think, okay, cool, no, that does make a lot of sense. And I think that's what you should do next time in a situation. But that leads me to the next and last thing that I want to speak about, which is speaking and communicating under pressure.
Yeah, that was definitely a high pressure environment. I mean, I went into the call not even expecting to pitch or sell anything. I just wanted to really get my foot in the door and just figure out a bit more about this individual. But sometimes I think we sabotage ourselves, and when the person shows up to the call and is interested, you're kind of like, oh crap, he actually wants to go through with this. And he was asking about the fees and the deliverables to be expected. And I think that created a high pressure environment because I was like, oh crap, I did not expect it to go this far.
Yeah. On fees, how did you deal with that?
Oh, it was a bit of a tough one. I initially said to him, let's not talk about the fees on this call. We can have a conversation later down the line about that if that's something you're interested in. But then he said something like, a common objection is, I need to know how much it is so I don't waste my time. Why have this call if I don't at least figure out how much your services are? So I gave a figure, which was a bit high. I did warn him though. I learned this, by the way, from someone. I think it was yourself. Correct me if I'm wrong, but if someone asks you your fees, you just start by saying, I'm expensive. And that already filters out the people that it essentially makes it in their mind that what their version of expensive is, it could be 5,000 or it could be 2,000. And when you say you're expensive, it's like, it's up to that person to basically like justify, if that makes sense. I don't know how to further explain it, but
Okay. I would argue that it's up to you to justify it. And the reason I would say that is because it's going to a sales conversation, but it's cool, we can roll with it. I use outcome-based pricing. So before I tell you how much my thing is, I'm going to tell you how much you can make.
He essentially said, I don't mind paying the figure that I stated if he makes that back through the engagements that he gets through the content that I'll be producing for him. So that's what he said. He said the figure is high unless he makes it back through working with me.
Got it. And that's the power of it. So if your thing is 10K, when people ask me how much is your thing, I would say I work with different kinds of people and I have a range of different services that range in pricing as well. The results typically are, this client made 100K, this client made 150K. Frederick went from making 4K a week to making 4K a weekend. Yeah. But results vary, and I can't guarantee results because ultimately the work is from you.
But then again, it's good communication. It's the way you frame that is it's like it makes it clear that the person doesn't have this expectation in their mind that they've created.
Yes.
Said this person did this is what they got. Can't guarantee it for yourself. It is possible.
It's possible. I'm going to give you all the tools to do the exact same thing that happened with him.
So good sales is just good communication.
Good sales is 100% good communication. And then in that moment, because I've said, look, success story. So my prices range between 5K to 20K. People typically go for the 10K offer, and it's something that we can discuss.
Back to the topic about the pressure.
Yes.
And communicating under pressure. What I did that worked is I took a breath and I looked away from the screen for a bit. And I don't know how that looked on his side for me to have to think about giving him a figure, but for me, it felt like it alleviated the pressure, and I don't want to jump the gun and say, this is how much it is. So I just had a breather, looked out the window and said, this is how much it will be. Is that something that works? Because there's two sides to it. Of course, deep breathing works. But from his perspective, do you think it looked a bit odd for me to just take a deep breath and look out the window before telling them how much it is?
No, I think it's absolutely normal. And I think that is the right thing to do. When speaking under pressure, one of the things that people typically do is they rush into an answer. Your brain under pressure tells you to rush. And this is based off when we were ancient days. Under pressure, I meant you either had to chase food or you're being chased by someone else's food.
Yeah.
You have to think fast.
Mm-hmm.
There is hardly ever going to be a lion in the boardroom, in that sales meeting.
Yeah.
So taking a moment to gather your thoughts is incredibly important. There are different tricks and tips to do so. You can just pause and breathe. You can get the person to repeat the question even though you understood the question. You could repeat the question back to them.
The total fee for this will be.
Yeah. So you want to know the total fee? What for the full program?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. For the 1-to-1. Okay, cool. Well, typically, you're giving yourself. You heard it from the start, but you're giving yourself an extra 5 seconds to be able to do that. When speaking under pressure, it's also good to have some sort of frameworks. There are different frameworks. I'll teach you two. One is called 1, 2, 3. The one thing, 2 things that I got from it, and 3 reasons why. So give me a topic.
Sales calls.
Sales calls.
Does that work? Is that
Yeah,
something we can
100%.
use? Yeah.
The one thing about sales calls is that often the person that's selling is typically under pressure. So 2 things that they can do is, number 1, be prepared. Try and do as much research as possible beforehand. And number 2, try and let the prospect speak more than you. So 3 things I want you to think about before your next sales call is the first one, let me not just jump into it and let me try and do some research. The second one, let me already have an idea of a testimonial that I can deliver or speak about on the call. And the third thing is to make sure that this is not something you're doing in the middle of a hectic day, but you have time before and after to deliver the collateral. So I've done 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
And that's been really helpful for me in my mind. Someone asks you, so why is it that you're a creative director? Try to use the 1, 2, 3 framework.
My mind's blank.
Yeah. Give it a go. Give it a go. 1, 2, 3. Why is it that you decided to be a creative director for speakers in particular? Go.
So it's 1, 2, 3. I'm struggling to understand the 1, 2, 3 as in one reason why I became a creative director is because I saw a gap in the market.
Cool.
2, right? Are we moving on to 2 now? Is
Cool.
that correct?
2 things that I noticed.
Yeah. So 2 things that I noticed is in this space, the people that were predominantly working with speakers were just cameramen. They were just videographers recording their event and sending off the footage. Another thing I noticed is that after that event, they're left with a gap, if that makes sense. 3 things to take away from this is that content has a lifespan.
Good.
And you need to take advantage of it. Another thing to learn from this is that a videographer does not have the long-term goals for your personal brand and the vision of it. And finally, we don't want your message to die in that room. We want your message to live online as it's evergreen content.
Sick.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Let's do one more each for the person listening. And it's good that
That is difficult. It's hard to put into practice. When you were doing it,
it seems to be
you've done the reps. You've done the reps. For me, it's like, okay,
But that's why it's good that you're here, so someone can see you doing it in action.
first timer.
Yeah. And that's why I want to do it, to show you what good looks like, and then you do it. But that it gives you a framework that even when you're under pressure, it's like, okay, well, look, the one thing, 2 things. So yeah, give me another topic.
Public speaking.
Too easy. Get another one.
Yeah. Working with videographers.
Working with videographers.
Yeah.
One thing that I found on this journey is that how you do anything is how you do everything. So I used to record myself on my phone, but I used to want to charge high fees. So then I realized two things. The first one is that I can't do a half-assed job, but then expect a client to give me premium fees. And the second thing is you get out what you put in life. So the three things I decided to do are: number one, work with a videographer as much as possible. Number two, in order to do that, anytime I got paid, I would put certain money to the side as content budget and did whatever I had to do with it. And this allowed me to, three, start taking things seriously like YouTube. As a whole, I now package myself in a much more premium way that will help me justify my premium fees.
I'm not doing it again, man. That's enough. All right, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Drop one more. Drop
One more.
Topic.
Traffic.
Traffic. I can't say too much about traffic. I sit inside editing. I take trains, man. I take trains everywhere. I can't really... Okay, I can actually talk about this, right? One thing I realize is that traffic really doesn't bother me.
Good.
And there's two main reasons for this. I often commute by train anyway, so I'm not stuck in traffic most of the time. And secondly, I travel in abysmal times. So honestly, late at night where there's no traffic, early in the morning where there's no traffic. So all in all, I really avoid the traffic in the first place. And it doesn't really impact me at all. And finally, I don't even own a car.
That's great. That's great.
I don't put myself in the environment where there's traffic and I'm susceptible to road rage. Therefore, to wrap it up, to summarize, traffic.
Now, you were able to deliver a presentation on traffic when you otherwise, your brain told you, I have nothing to say about this.
Yeah, honestly, it's a good framework to keep in mind, because if you told me to speak about traffic, I'd be like,
what do I say?
traffic, I mean, it's there. But
you can make anything sound interesting and compelling. But most importantly, especially when you're under pressure, if you just start with the one thing, right? Someone asks you something about your role. If a client is complaining, like, why have you not got back to my email? Well, look, one thing we've all been struggling with at the moment is the workload, right? It's nearing Christmas, and also everyone's off because they're on holiday. They're going on ski holidays. So I apologize. I'm going to get back to you as soon as possible. And next time, if I can't get back to you, I'll just send you an email to say, bear with me.
Yeah. So
1, 2, 3.
So it's applicable in really any environment.
Any environment.
Yeah. And I think that's why it's just really, communication is undervalued by a lot of people, and everyone needs to work on their communication. It can save so much hassle and headache and just stress, really.
The life that you want is on the other side of your ability to speak and communicate. I truly believe that. Because once you learn how to speak and communicate, bro, everything becomes negotiable. Everything, bro. Everything. There are venues that are closed on a weekend, but I was able to negotiate it, and now they just give me the keys and I work during the weekend.
This is an interesting conversation now, because I want to talk about, what do you think about people that could call that manipulation?
Cool.
Do you think that it is, or do you think it's just a really good skill that you're leveraging? Because some people might say you're using it to get what you want. I think that's manipulation. What do you think about that?
The difference, listen carefully. The difference between influence and manipulation is the intent. The action is the same. Because I can influence you to be the best version of yourself, or I can manipulate you to do some bad-ish.
The intention is different.
The intent. But the actions will be very similar.
Yes, correct.
So use these Jedi mind tricks well.
In the right way. In the right way.
At your discretion. But I truly believe that the difference between...
I think that's a good question. Some of the viewers might be thinking,
absolutely,
this guy, just because he's a good at communicating. He thinks he can get what he wants. There's probably some keyboard warriors out
there.
there.
No, absolutely. So everything becomes negotiable in a great way. In a great way. Your life becomes negotiable. Your promotion, the clients, the amount you pay for rent. Like, this is...
Oh yeah, this is a very interesting point. I think a lot of they hold themselves back. And the one thing I always say to my friends and my partner, I say, you don't ask, you don't get.
Facts.
You need to communicate. Someone might not know what you're thinking or know what you're going through. Landlord might want to raise rent on you, but they don't know your situation. You can just simply communicate and say, hey, bear with me. I'm going through this. A lot of problems would be solved through effective communication, I think.
Absolutely. So this has been a masterclass. Hey, people pay a lot of money for this stuff. We've done some
gems.
We've done some live coaching.
Even I've learned, honestly, I'm not the best at sales, as you know, but I'm going to definitely implement these tricks. And I think a lot of the viewers, they could be entrepreneurs or even people in the corporate space. There's wisdom you can take from this.
If you do these things, you'll speak in a way that people will want to listen.
Mm-hmm.
And if people want to listen to you, that's when you are a leader. So we'll be doing way more of these. I need you guys to like. I need you guys to subscribe.
Comment anything you've learned.
Anything you've learned. Your main takeaway.
Anything they want us to talk about in the future.
Please, if you have any questions about anything that we've just spoken about, please put it in the comments because we will be answering those questions in future videos. And I think the direction that this channel will be going in is that we're just going to be having candid conversations about communication and about how anyone can master this skill, and in doing so, life changes.
It's true. Untapped potential.
Untapped potential, man. I think I'm going to call this Talk.
Talk. I was thinking, you know what? As I was on the way here, I was thinking, what can be a name for this? Because this will be an ongoing thing.
Yeah.
It has to have talk in there. Has to. But
we're talking about talking.
Yeah. Talking about talking with Frederick.
Talk. I love it. All right, cool. We're done. I have no idea how long we've been shooting. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.